Hey everyone, I'm Anne. Welcome to the Let's Get Naked podcast, where we dive deep into vulnerability. In this space, we'll explore what triggers us, uncover the patterns holding us back, and discover how to take charge of our own growth. If you're ready to dig in, be vulnerable, and face the tough stuff, then buckle up. It's time to get naked. America doesn't just have a gun problem, we have a connection problem. For decades, we've been raising our boys to amputate their emotions. How many times have we heard it? Man up, don't be a pussy, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Those phrases echo in living rooms, locker rooms, and schoolyards, and they land like shackles. We've trained half the population to believe that feeling is failure, that tears equal weakness. And when life inevitably throws trauma, bullying, rejection, or loss their way, they've got no tools to process it. No permission to even name what they feel. Just rage simmering under the surface with nowhere to go. Here's what the research screams. 98% of mass shooters are men. A study of 177 shooters found the number one external red flag wasn't video games or movies, it was social isolation. 3 out of 4 school shooters were bullied or traumatized. Almost all grew up in homes where emotional connection was non-existent. This is the recipe. Cut boys off from emotions, add trauma they can't process, strip away human connection, and watch the spiral accelerate. And when it explodes, we point to guns as the problem. But guns are just the smoke. Disconnection is the fire. Gun control? That's symptom management. You can legislate weapons, but until we rebuild the human bonds that keep people from breaking in the first place, this cycle won't stop. So what do? We fight fire with connection. Teach boys and men that emotions aren't weakness, they're human. Feeling isn't failure. Create real spaces for connection. Conversations deeper than how's it going and Instagram highlight reels. Check on each other, like for real. Sit, listen, hold space, not rush to fix, but actually see someone. Model connection in our families. Let kids see us cry, struggle, heal, and stand back up. Show them that vulnerability is strength. Drop the digital weapons. Put down the screens, the comment wars, the endless scroll, and look someone in the eyes again. And stop pointing the blame finger. We are all the problem. We are all right. We are all wrong. None of that matters when we're all terrified to send our kids to school. This is an everyone problem, and it's going to take everyone to fix it. Not with more hate, but with connection, with shared humanity. Until we all set our weapons down, not just the guns in our hands, but the walls around our hearts, this nightmare will keep replaying. Wake up, people. Guns are the smoke. Disconnection is the fire. And the cure is human connection. Today, I'm stripping it all off with Jill McMahon. Jill is a licensed professional counselor focusing her work on trauma and grief. She is the author of Bulletproof, Healing After Gun Violence and Trauma, a guide for survivors, caregivers, and clinicians. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Hi, Anne.
Hi. Yeah, welcome.
What a beautiful introduction. Wow.
Thanks. You know, a lot of passion this morning as I was putting that together because, obviously you're passionate about it enough so to write a book about it. And I'm passionate about it because I have kiddos that I've dealt with that being scared to send them to school. Yep. And I just think this isn't a problem that gets bogged down in race, in politics, in all of the things that they give us to divide us. This is a human connection problem from where I see it. And so I'm curious to get your take on kind of how you see things.
I loved that analogy in the introduction. That really struck me.
Yeah.
And you repeated it several times. So I hope the listeners really let that sink in as well.
Yeah.
I think isolation is the world's biggest enemy.
I agree.
And you really kind of spoke to that. So, what I find in my work and why I was so intentional in writing the book is because too often the dialogue turns instantly political.
Yes.
And the second it becomes political, we lose touch with the survivor, with the victim, with the individuals that heard the gunshots or witnessed something they never thought that they were going to witness, or the individuals that are going to spend the next 10, 20 years of their lives replaying that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very much a human issue. And the political rhetoric just divides instead of connects.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched that happen to the point where, I've gotten completely out of paying attention to any of that. I stopped watching the news several years ago because I just felt like this isn't adding value to my life. And it's not that I don't understand that that's still happening out there. It's that my energy and what I bring forward to my tribe is way more important than to jeopardize that based on things that are really fear-based. I think any of the big items that kind of divide us, whether it's religion, race, politics, any of those, it just drains away from anything that I have to offer, which is definitely promoting human connection and us all being one. And let's get back to that before we start dividing us on all the other bullshit that kind of goes on top of that with this life.
Well, that's what's important about your work and what you're doing and what specifically this podcast stands for. We need a lot more of this.
Yes.
But something that you said really just kind of stuck with me, because that experience, Anne, of turning off the TV and just, needing to walk away from it, in some ways to save yourself, but to preserve your energy, is something that we're seeing over and over again, believe it or not. And what I'm saying is the pattern that we have been using after a gun violence event isn't working because so many people have stopped listening.
Yeah.
And I understand why, right? Again, it's self-preservation, but then why do we continue the same format?
Right.
Gun violence event after gun violence event after gun violence event, it turns into who was the shooter, how'd they get their weapon, and who failed us.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that there isn't time for all of that.
Sure.
We all feel that.
Yeah.
We're all curious. We'll start there. And we're all furious, right? But unfortunately, the conversation stops there.
Right.
And it's falling on deaf ears because so many people have heard it over and over and over again. So they either change the channel or swipe up and just move on with their day. And what we're forgetting are all of those individuals that are just figuring out how to trust the world again.
Right.
I mean, we have, in the latest poll in 2023, 57% of the United States reported being impacted by gun violence in some way in their life.
Right.
So for you, because I'm not sure you know this, and I didn't actually know this until I wrote the book, suicide by firearm is included in that statistic. So it's September. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but it is September. So it's Suicide Prevention Awareness Month this month. And so many of our suicides are by firearm. Over 50% of suicides in this country are by firearm. So those two things are really interconnected. They really do wrap in with one another. And again, when we talk about gun violence events, the general population doesn't know that. The general population doesn't know that over 50% of suicides are by firearm. They've stopped listening. Right? Because the rhetoric becomes so negative and so rote. And we see the next Republican being interviewed on CNN, or, everybody's taking a stance and there's this need to be right and this need to be wrong. And anytime you need to be right or wrong about anything or prove anybody else wrong, you've missed the whole point.
That's so well said, Jill, because I couldn't agree with you more, right? That's part of in the opening where I'm like, we're all right. We're all wrong,
exactly,
right?
Girl.
Like we don't have to do that. Like set all of that down. When these things happen, let's come together as humans and say, how are we going to fix this? Because my heart doesn't just go out to the people that are affected on the receiving end of the gun. My heart also bleeds for the one that's on the firing end of the gun, right? Because how did he get to a point? How did that boy or that man get to a point? You're going to make me emotional. Where that was his out. Where that felt, whether it's taking his own life or whether it's going in and doing some sort of mass shooting situation, what does that have to look like for him to be so broken? And what we do is we turn it into something that's a politicized three-ring circus instead of saying, he's hurting. We're hurting. Now we're all hurting, right? Because it happens in our communities and it happens. But we all get up and point the finger at who's wrong, who's gun control. Fuck you, you're fucking wrong, fuck you. And what did we get done? What did we get done?
And then we shut the door
Yes.
and we forget about it.
Yep.
And 2 weeks later, another event occurs.
Just gonna
and
keep
we do
happening.
the same thing over and over again. Okay, so what you just said was very bold, which I'm not surprised. And I've said it in a couple audiences. I don't say it in every audience. Sometimes I get the temperature of the audience before I say it out loud. But I was interviewed. There was because you weren't watching media last week.
Right, it wasn't.
There was a horrific mass shooting event at a Catholic school in Minnesota. 20 young students were shot, 2 passed, and I was interviewed soon after that event last week. And that was one of those moments where I was like, yes, we're worried about the EMTs, and yes, we're worried about everybody that was there and witnessed, but I'm also worried about the shooter's family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
This is a huge loss for them as well. And that's just being human.
Yeah.
We can say that.
Yes.
There aren't sides here, right? Unfortunately, we live in a culture where everybody wants to make a debate a side, right or wrong, left or right, blue or red. It doesn't, we've stopped forgetting about just humanness.
Right.
What brings a person to that place where they feel that is their only option? I have said for a long time, and one of these days people are going to hear me, that I believe that most mass shootings are a suicide before they're a homicide.
I'm going to let that sink in for a minute because that felt heavy when you said it. And I think you're absolutely right. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about the shooting that happened and you're thinking about, the shooter and his family and whatnot, you look at that and so many people in this world come from this place of couldn't happen to me, happen to me, right? And I think that's such bullshit. I know anything could happen to me any day.
Good for you.
Right. And so you look at this from this place of watching as our youth or it's melting down. It's melting down. All of this could happen. It could be my son. It could be anybody's son. It could be, and so everyone comes and then we vilify the family of who that is or what did they do wrong. What are we all doing wrong? Let's take some joint accountability for where we are and stop pointing fingers at each other.
Well, what's going on in our culture specifically? So I'm going to talk about the American culture, right? Because this problem with gun violence does not exist in the same way in other cultures. It just doesn't. Come at me with any argument you want. I'm going to shut you down every single time. It does not exist in the same way that it exists in America. Why do we have so many individuals that feel this desperate, that feel this isolated, detached, alone, unseen, invisible, desperate to either leave a message or leave this world or prove a point? I mean, that says something about that's what we need to focus on, right? So everybody would love a quick answer.
Sure.
That is the nature of who we are as Americans. It's also a very human characteristic. We would love a quick answer. There's not a quick answer on this one. There's just not. There's mental health that needs to be involved. Believe it or not, I mean, there's faith that needs to be involved in some way. A lot of America is detaching from faith, whatever type of faith that is, right? It's belief in a higher power and in a higher being. It's reconnecting with one another. It's setting our cell phones down. It's putting boundaries around messaging on social media. I mean, right? So, but that's not the answer people want to hear.
No, God, no. God, no.
That is complicated. And we can't point our finger at somebody else. So because we can't point our finger at somebody else, it's surely not anything that I can do to make a difference.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild that that's where it goes? Because I think that's exactly what it will take to fix all of this is turning inward and saying, what is my piece? What is my part? What can I do?
Taking ownership.
I was having, I'm going to fumble this story, but I was having this conversation with my husband this past weekend, and we were talking about, what I call the focus effect. So there's this Will Smith movie called Focus, and he's a pickpocket, and he's talking about he's teaching this other gal, the other lead in the movie, how to pickpocket. And he said, I touch you here so that I can pickpocket over here. I touch your shoulder, right? So it's just this distraction, right? And we're talking about, okay, what are the answers for gun violence? What are the answers for a lot of the shit that we have going on that's just dividing all of us? Because I think everyone would agree it's not good. No matter which side of the aisle you're on, no matter which side of the race relations, no matter what side of anything that you're on, I think everybody can agree this is garbage. We need an answer for this. And it's like the focus effect is happening to us right now. The human connection, which is the root of stuff, is everyone pointing the finger at everybody else, having that need to be right. I have to be right. You have to be wrong. What if you realized that your perspective of what's happening is right? Sure. Like all of the ingredients that make you the beautiful snowflake that is Jill, your perspective is right. It doesn't have to counteract someone else's perspective in order for us to still have that human connection and really come down to the base of where things are rooted. If we all did more of holding the door for somebody, making eye contact, smiling, maybe have a conversation with somebody out front of an elevator when you're waiting for that. Think about how much better you feel by doing those things. Think about the hit that you get, right? Just how does that make your chest feel when someone smiles at you or goes out of their way instead of burying their face in their phones, right? We are having the focus effect done to us on a mass scale as we divide against, are you Republican or are you Democratic? I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Who gives a shit?
Matter.
Right? It's like, are you guys crazy?
Really doesn't
matter.
matter.
Why are we even still doing this? Same thing with like which God you think is right or wrong. Well, the God that I pray to doesn't have anything to do with telling somebody that they're wrong and you're right and whatever. Get your head around that. So if you pray to a God that says other people are wrong, maybe get curious about that.
I like the way you said that. Maybe get curious. We've stopped getting curious.
We have. We get in line and we follow the next fucking ass that's in front of us and we just go.
But Anne, okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper into that. That's too tiring. Oh. People are tired. We're tired.
What's worse?
Right?
What's worse? Another shooting where you have to worry about your kid. I'm scared to send my son to school.
Or, I was about to say, or just sending your kid to school.
Yeah.
Regardless if a shooting occurs or not. I mean, that is one of the ripple effects that we've been experiencing since Columbine in 1999.
Yes.
There is this fear that is prevalent or underlying in all of us. So adults, specifically kids, for a long time, I would watch anxiety ramp up in my private practice around October and September in my young teenage clients. Well, I'm going to let you guess why that is, right? Sometimes they could verbalize that, sometimes they couldn't, but almost every time across the board, I would get some type of self-report or story about it's the beginning of the semester. I have to figure out where all of my classes are. I have to get used to the teachers. I have to get used to their personalities. And in each classroom I go to, I have to figure out where the exit is. I have to know, when I go to a concert, I subconsciously spot out where the closest exit is. In case of an active shooter event. It's the shooting drills. I did an interview with this amazing fourth grade teacher when I was doing research for the book. She was in Colorado. She lived in Colorado during Columbine. She had a daughter whom was a part of a school shooting event and was cowering in the school gymnasium for 2 hours while they were sweeping it and cleaning it. And while I was hours after the school day had started, I interviewed this fourth grade teacher. So she had just shuffled the kids, these little kids, to their parents' cars, shut the doors, ran back into her classroom to take a call with me. And she said, Jill, I'm still coming down. We had an active shooter situation this morning. And I was like, was there an event? And she's like, no, but all the alarms went off and we had a threat called in. It's, the third day of school and I'm shuffling kids into the classroom that aren't my kids. And there's this blaring alarm above all of our heads saying, hide, run, fight. Hide, run, fight. Okay, so Anne, that was a long wraparound story to get to. What do you think that does to the nervous system? So what you just started explaining, right? Like, I'm worried about sending my kids to school. Okay, so as adults, now we have this level of worry that our parents didn't have. As kids, you think it's your real life story, that it could actually happen at any time. And as even younger kids, you learn to have this nervous system visceral reaction to just hearing a fire alarm going off, because that could signal that one of your friends is going to be shot or your teacher at any moment. Right? I mean, this is a whole different childhood than when you and I were kids.
Yeah,
girl.
yeah, no doubt. Well, and it's like people don't realize that affects everything. Who cares what side of the aisle you're on or what color you are? Our babies are being buried no matter what their color is. It doesn't matter. Like, don't we understand that? It's not about, again, whatever for people who want to believe gun control. I have my own personal views on that. Great. It doesn't matter. Take the guns away. It's going to be something different. If you have this lack of human connection, if you have this isolation, if you have where we're taught that emotions are not welcome and that boys are not able to process their emotions in a healthy way, if we continue to raise our boys like this, this will continue to happen.
So where you bring up a really good point, and I was hearing you in your introduction as well, that starts with the fundamentals, right? Which means we have to get comfortable with having emotions in our own skin.
Yes.
And then we have to model that for our kids. But when we have all of this kind of complex angst going on around us, that I do think a good portion of it has to deal with the electronics that we all hold, all of us. I'm not going to blame the kids. That's such bullshit.
Yep, it's every single one of us.
It's such bullshit.
Yep, it's every single one of us.
And I say this to parents over and over and over again when they used to come into my office and go, "Is it the social media, Jill?" You know, it would be their kids would come in for anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. "Jill, is it the social media?" Okay, to me that's like, "Hey, Jill, it's not anything we're doing and under our roof. It's the social media. We're all just going to point fingers again and blame the social media." And what I would tell them is like, "Oh, here's the deal. We're not getting away from social media. So you just need to find healthy ways to build parameters around that, because it's not actually going away." Right. So you can point as many fingers as you want, but let's be realistic. It's not actually going anywhere. So let's find a way that it's healthy for your child. However, you can blame this instrument that your child is staring at 14 hours a day, but I'm going to say our generation is to blame. And you know why? Because when our children were 2 and 3, we were handing them our beautiful phones to hold while they were in their car seat and we were trying to drive, or while we were at Chili's and trying to have a nice dinner with our girlfriends because we just wanted a glass of wine. We were handing them our phones so they could look at the pretty lights. Yeah. So their brains are literally hardwired to need this little device, to think it needs this little device that's in its hands, right? So, I mean, I do feel like that is a part one of many things that is creating this additional angst. But if you take that angst, Anne, and you pair it with the accessibility of firearms in our country, that's the kindling, right? So, you know, I don't get political, and I don't go into gun rights because I think that is a disservice to the survivor. And I think you're taking away the survivor's voice the second you make it political. So I don't do that. But I'm going to tell you that is the formula. It's the easily accessible firearms around every corner in this country. That's what makes us stand out from other countries. They do have, of course, violent episodes, but, you know, in the UK, it's the knife is the weapon. They have stabbing epidemics. Okay, well, I want you to think of a stabbing event. You can, we're getting gruesome here, but I mean, you're going to maybe harm 3 to 7 people.
Right.
We had 20 children shot praying at their Catholic school last week in the matter of like 2 minutes, right? So think of the availability to stop somebody in a knife event in the middle of an attack versus stopping somebody who's walking around with an AK.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we have this heightened, bubbling, fuming over emotion that we're all just, it's interesting what we've been saying about human connection, what you've been saying about human connection, because I feel like we're not swimming anymore. We're all doggy paddling, all of us. And so we're all just like running under the water to keep our heads up, to keep our heads up, to keep our heads up. And after a while, that gets exhausting, right?
Yeah.
We're not just swimming anymore. And so when you take that kind of mentality and you make all of these firearms accessible, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And we're have been watching it unfold for many, many years, but specifically since Columbine in 1999.
Yeah. What do you think is preventing being able to just make something that makes sense? You know, I always come from this place of make it make sense, because I'm not suggesting that we do nothing with gun stuff. That's not my position. I just don't think when people say, if there weren't any guns, it's like, no, the root problem is still there. It's going to be a knife, or it doesn't matter, right? Run your car through, a store. There still will be destruction.
Violence will still
happen. Maybe it will be something that's different, but let's fix the root problem.
Yeah.
But if you mind speaking on this, what are some of the things that put us in the right direction as it relates to getting a handle on that?
Violence as a whole?
Well, or just the gun component of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly what you and I are doing right here.
Having conversations.
Bringing attention to it and having a different conversation.
Yeah.
We're having a different conversation right now, girl.
We are having a different conversation.
Right?
I'm glad that
We're having a more enlightened conversation.
Yeah.
We're having what I would say is a non-judgmental What?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
A non-judgmental conversation.
Weird.
I sat down on this couch today. I didn't tell you what my stance was.
Right.
You didn't tell me what your stance was because, in my opinion, it doesn't fucking
Doesn't
matter.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that rote conversation is not working. So we need to do it differently, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think we need to just start to be smart within our own homes. Mm-hmm. Yes, all of the things that you've just said, they're so big though. Starting to express emotions, starting to really talk to your children, starting to model for them that it's okay for adults to have emotions, therefore they can have emotions. At the same time, we need to start helping our families find more balance, right? Mm. I really think we need to stop pushing our kids to be overachievers. Mm. When did that start?
I don't know, but I was thinking about that the other day too, and it felt like that wasn't right either. When did we also stop taking accountability?
Many opinions, Anne. I have so many opinions.
Jill, I think you're going to be coming back on the pod again. But no, saying like, when did accountability go completely out the window? Because what you said a few minutes ago about let's point the finger somewhere else, not what's happening in my home. I do just the opposite. What's happening in my home? Where could I be better, right? Yeah. That's where we start. When people realize that there's actually power in that, right? When you do this whole, like, I'm a victim to things that are just happening to me, there's no power in victimhood. Mm-mm. Taking back the power of saying, God, I really fucked that up, right? I mean, that was part of my journey with getting sober.
If I could do it over, this is how I would do it next time.
Absolutely. But how am I going to do it from this day forward, right? Which is modeling emotions for my children. Share,
and telling your kids, hey, I kind of screwed that up.
Totally.
So we're going to do it differently next time.
Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't have that conversation with my parents.
Yeah.
No. My parents never came to me and they were like, we kind of did that wrong.
Yeah.
Let's have a do-over, right? I do think that we are more open to those conversations now. I do think that more parents are indeed having those frank conversations. Not all of them, obviously, having those frank conversations. But I will say that culture is definitely pushing children to be adults quicker. And so, every 9-year-old boy now has a pitching coach and has a kicking coach. I'm not going to say that we didn't do it. I am not going to say that we weren't that family. Now, unfortunately for my spouse, he married a therapist. Mm-hmm. So of course I was that person going, we're not doing that. The keeping up with the Joneses is very real. Mm. I mean, to get into college, you need to have like a 3.6 GPA. I think you just went off to college.
I did.
3.6 GPA. You need to speak French. You need to play an instrument and tell me what awards you've won and how many hours of community service do you have? Yeah. Okay, well, when did they just stop being kids?
Yeah.
And all of those fundamental lessons that are learned in just being kids. Also, I mean, I'm going to go back to the phone, and this is not me pointing. It's just showing why they have so many different coping skills or mind processes than we do. You know what? I can't even tell you how many times I was in the middle of a field as a sophomore or junior in high school, probably doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Amen.
We couldn't go drinking at Kim's house because her parents were there. So we would steal the liquor and we would all go to the field, and curfew's in 30 minutes and I have to figure out how to get myself home. Did it almost every time, right?
Yes.
So there really is some, you really learn how to be self-reliant.
Yes.
You really learn how to pull your ass out of some bad situations. You really learn how to, a lot of self-confidence in what you are capable of achieving in moments like that as a kid.
Yeah.
And now I have a cell phone readily available. I'm just going to call somebody to come and pick me up. Or I'm going to text my mom that I'm going to be late. Or guess what? I'm on my mom's 360, so she knows exactly where I am anyway. Yeah. I mean, we're just rescuing them all. I left my instrument at school, Mom. Will you come and bring it to me? I was that parent that was like, hell no.
Yeah, I was that. Joe,
No.
I was the exact same parent, right? Because it's like, how are they supposed to learn accountability for themselves? How are they supposed to build confidence in themselves if they never have? You know, when you talk about being in the field and drinking and all of the things, that built confidence in you because you figured out what you needed to do to be able to make that happen, right? Our kids nowadays don't have to do that. No. They don't have any reason. They don't have any tools to be able to build confidence over. And now you have all of these kids who are afraid to fail, who are afraid to even go out there and swing for the fence.
Yes.
Right? And it is sad to watch because it's like, that's not.
But our expectations of them at the same time are even higher.
For sure.
Because we go, you have more than we ever had.
Yep.
Right? Or society says you have to be extraordinary. Yeah. I'm not even going to necessarily blame the parents. I mean, this has all been a slippery slope and it's happened over 2 decades. So it isn't like we all of a sudden went, I need you to be a superstar. One neighbor was trying to keep up with the other neighbor, which was trying to keep up with the other neighbor. I don't want my daughter not to be able to stand tall with the other girls. So, maybe I should push her to do the certain thing that she doesn't want to do because I don't want her to deal with the social ramifications. So we've all done it slowly over time, very unintentionally. However, we have a problem now because not only are these children living with different anxieties, fears, right? The active shooter situation, they have different pressures than we've ever had. So you can see why they're doggy paddling. To go back to my analogy from earlier, they're doggy paddling at 19 and 20 years old. They are flat out burnt out and exhausted by 30.
Yeah.
25 to 35, 25 to 40, best time of my life.
Yeah.
Most amazing, getting my independence, figuring out who I was, realizing that I could, sustain myself. I could made my own income. I started my own family. They are fried by 30. So this is very indirectly answering your question. Jill, what can we do to kind of get a handle on all of it? First of all, we have to get a handle on what we are prioritizing. Number one. Number two, regardless of what your stance is on firearms, safe storage is a non-negotiable.
Agreed.
And we still struggle with it.
I know.
It is a non-negotiable. The first suicide that was experienced in my family was when my son was 11, and somebody on one of his sports teams had walked away from school. I want to say he was in 5th or 6th grade. Walked away from school one day, walked to Dad's house, and got the gun that I believe was safely locked away. However, the young kid
knew, didn't get into it. Was
he right? He knew the code. He knew the code to the lock, right? So, it was horrible to explain to my 11-year-old son what that was about and how we needed to handle that. That was his first experience with what I do for a living, because I'd never really shared that with him before, and with how different suicide is. But that's a situation where we even had a firearm that was locked away. But if your children know how to access it, more times than not, we have firearms that aren't locked away because people believe that they need them close by in case of emergency. I could go into all the statistics that prove there's fallacy to all of that as well. However, hey, have your guns. Be careful with them.
Be smart about it. Be responsible.
Do you need 5?
Yeah. How much trouble do you think you're going to get into?
And really teach your children about safety.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that struck me when you were talking about that. So you talk about the 11-year-old that has access, and you're saying, okay, well, we needed the guns for protection. Well, which one do you want to risk? Having something where you actually needed it for protection, or living out the horror story that is your own child blowing their fucking brains out? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And it was a horror story.
And it's like, how many more of those do we need to experience? Right? Because I don't come from this place, as we talked about before we started recording, I don't come from this place where I'm like, oh, it couldn't happen to me. I know it could happen to me, right? And I have always lived my life that way. It was like when the kids were little and they're learning to swim and everyone's on the news like, oh my God, I can't imagine that it happened to me. It's like, no. I live in the real world. My kids could drown just as easily as the neighbor next to it. It isn't just somebody that I look at that I judge that says, well, they must not have been paying attention. Like, no, shit happens every single day. Every single day.
And we don't get to pick.
We don't get to pick
if it happens to us or somebody else sometimes. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did that make you additionally cautious or anxious?
No.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
Like, I love that perspective. I always say that I think the biggest gift in life is perspective.
I agree with that.
Actually.
Yeah.
But sometimes that additional awareness of it could happen at any time creates an additional anxiety, right? And so then we may hover over our children. But if you didn't have that affliction, but you had the gift of perspective, what a gift to your kids, to your family.
It feels like that now that
we
you
aren't
say
special.
That. No,
we aren't special. No, nobody says that today isn't my day.
No.
So I have this dear little friend of mine who was diagnosed with a very serious cancer several years ago, and I remember her saying to me, I walked with her through it, and we thought for a while we were going to lose her, and I remember her saying to me one day at brunch, she said, Jill, here's the deal. Like, so many people are afraid that, this could be my last month or this could be my last year. But the reality is we could all get hit by a truck tomorrow.
I live accordingly. I call it keeping death close.
Yeah.
Because if you do keep death close, if you realize that I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, no matter what, right? Like, keep people that live with it where they think they're going to get 80 years or however many years or whatever, you're fooling yourselves.
Yeah.
You're putting your living on the back burner. You are. Right? You're phoning it in, and you're not actually enjoying and making the power of today what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, I just think, what a waste. What a waste.
Sad.
Yeah, it is
it's sad.
But when you lose people, when you have people that are diagnosed with something, or when you lose, suddenly, whatever, doesn't that slam it right in your face? Do you have to have that happen to you in your front door to be able to realize that that's actually a thing?
Well, you shouldn't, but a lot of us do.
Right. I know, it's wild. It's like, oh, so-and-so died at whatever. My sister passed away 10 years ago, very unexpectedly, very whatever. Did she know that was going to happen? No, of course not. Could it happen to her? Obviously, yes, it happened to our entire family. Why do you have to have something like that happen in order for you to go, that could happen to any of us at any time for any reason?
Why do you have to have something like that happen in order to stop and appreciate what you have, right? Learn to not take for granted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just took a big shift. Big pivot right there, girl. We took a big pivot.
We're just around the horn.
I am right there with you. Yeah.
No, but I look at that and I just feel like, don't we realize, like, wake up, people?
Well, I'm a believer at the same time, and this is not your therapy session.
Yeah, no,
so
please,
I will stop
hit me with
asking
it.
questions.
I love it.
But I do firmly believe that most people that function under the gift of perspective have had some type of catastrophic event happen earlier in their life. Agreed. So I always say that, everybody will get the gift of perspective at some time. So when I work with grievers and they become so frustrated that nobody in their life gets them, nobody understands my trauma, nobody understands what I've been through, and I'm like, well, they can't, because they haven't been through your trauma. Yeah. And even, let's just say that two of you were in a horrific car accident together, sitting right next to one another, exact same day, exact same time, you're going to comprehend it very, very differently. So even if somebody was sitting next to you in your trauma, they still can't comprehend your trauma, nor can you comprehend their trauma. But they're always like, it's very lonely because nobody understands where I am. And what I will say to them is they just haven't had their catastrophic moment yet, which has helped them understand the world in the way that you understand the world. Now they will, but some people don't have that moment until they're 65. Some people don't have that moment until they're 80. But if you happen to have that moment, if you just happen, which is your life, which is what was dictated for you. If you happen to have that traumatic moment at 6 or at 11, you just kind of function through the world with a different perspective. And sometimes it can feel lonely, and other times just use that gift to share with others.
It's a gift, and to me, I think it's a superpower. Because
love it.
I was very much the young person that understood the perspective, right?
Yep.
Which I always say people with the biggest scars are my people, right? Because it does help you look through a different lens a little bit at how things are coming at you.
It does.
And I can look at something and I can say, what does that look like from the other perspective, from the other side of the aisle, from the other side of race, from the other side of sex, and from the other side of whatever the differences are. Let me check out the 6 and the 9, right? I have this whole thing about like the 69 project, right? And it's like, it's a 6 and a 9, depending on what your perspective. You know, when I was going through a bunch of stuff with my husband years ago,
that's cool.
it was like, he always wanted to be right. And I'm like, yeah, but just come stand where I'm standing. The 6 is the 9, right?
Cool.
Exactly. So it's like, have you checked out the 9 perspective on that one, right? I hammer that one home a lot where it's like, just go ahead and just look at it from a different angle. When you realize that on this earth, we're all snowflakes. We all have a very unique set of ingredients that goes into making up our recipe, not only in who you are and how you present in this world, but also all of the events that have happened to you that kind of change everything. So if it's like, when you're talking about the 2 people in the car having the same car accident, but this person might have something else that happened, or the next person might have something else. So understanding that we're all that unique, so we all can be right. And we all can be wrong, and it doesn't fucking matter, right? None of that matters. We're all sitting here trying to fucking point around it like, no, but look. No, it's like the human connection is being drained out of the bottom of this fucking society while we all are pointing to make certain that
we all learn to appreciate and respect that somebody else can have a different perspective.
Of course. That's the 6 and the 9 that's beautiful of
them.
It.
Exactly.
It's like, I can still be right in what my perspective is on this issue.
But appreciate your perspective at the same time.
And listen to that, because my favorite thing is having somebody with a different perspective, having a normal, open, vulnerable conversation, deep conversation, where you get to make me think in a way of, why do I feel that way? Because I love to throw out limiting beliefs. I love to update how I feel or see something, right? Because all I have is whatever my experience is.
You and I, that's an aphrodisiac.
Those
conversations, you're like, bring it on.
It literally.
You want to have a deep conversation? Let's go.
It does it for me on a whole different level. Like, I don't understand people that want to talk surface level shit. And a lot of people do, right? But that's not me anymore.
But it's also a protective factor.
I get it.
Right.
I get it. But God, it's so much better in the deep end.
It doesn't have to be who you are anymore.
Well, get out of the kiddie pool.
Oh,
Get out of the fucking kiddie pool.
Yeah. Deep, juicy, non-judgmental, always a life learning conversation.
Yeah, because you can do that, and you can challenge that with other people that are in your tribe or outside of your tribe. It doesn't even matter. But if you can do that in a respectful way, where I'm not trying to convince you of anything different, but I would love to hear what you think about the subject, or same, right? Like, and maybe I do change my mind, or maybe I don't.
Teach me something.
Agreed. But we can't when everybody has this like crazy layer of defensiveness and pointing the finger, and no one wants to take accountability. I mean, we could all sit and point the finger at what's going on right now.
They're hiding behind their memes, and they're hiding behind their reels, and they're just, I'm not gonna get on and show you my face and state my opinion, but I'm gonna share a reel of somebody who's very passionate about this. It's all disconnect. That's all disconnect. That's not being human.
It isn't. You're absolutely right.
And it's so easy.
Yeah.
And you've made it so easy to disconnect.
You can be behind a keyboard and give your full opinion and never have to look somebody in the eye and understand their perspective. And
literally see into their soul in some ways, right? Do you remember the times when we used to have hard conversations, and we would practice them, and we knew we had to go into the office and tell a boss that we didn't like this particular task that she gave us.
Sure.
And we were horrified to do it. And but that's okay. She's a bitch, right? She's a bitch. It's going to be fine. She deserves this for what she's put me through. And then we go and have the conversation. And we walk out and we're like, she's not that bad after all. Like she was so human in the way she responded to me. That is not what I was expecting. And now all of a sudden you have a completely different relationship with that person.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. Right?
May I ask you, you're absolutely right. May I ask you a question as it relates to our children, and you're in this space. Are we working on teaching our children at a curricular level about emotions? Am I missing? Do I have to get up off my couch and fucking get involved in that? Or can I leave that to somebody else?
Because we actually are. I'm gonna exhale.
Yeah.
Exhale,
Yeah.
take a breath.
Because for me,
we're actually getting a lot better.
Okay.
A lot better about
Okay.
that. So much today of what young kids are receiving in the way of Bluey, Nickelodeon, like in the
Yeah.
way of those things are very, very emotion center based, teaching them how to identify emotions, teaching them how to verbalize emotions. So we've gone leaps and bounds. Really, the generation that I'm worried about it's not my 20-year-old that I'm necessarily worried about. It's the generation that is 30 to 40 right now, or 30 to 50 right now. Like there's this whole pocket that kind of missed out, right? It's the people that were just a generation or two behind us. I think that our generation, we're similar in age, are becoming a little more evolved. So we're trying to share that with our children, right? But there's this whole pocket of 20 years that, still just got the like, don't cry, shut up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What are you whining about? That's not really in anymore.
Right.
Does it still exist? Hell yes, it still exists. But it's not the acceptable way to parent or raise a child anymore.
Well, I'm happy
So
that
we
that's
also need to
correcting.
not rescue too much.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
here's
Say
what
more.
has happened if you go back throughout history. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Anne. I'm so
say
sorry.
more, because
if you go back throughout history, you will see that this pattern actually kind of repeats itself as really history completely. We could go to COVID. I could tell you about how many times that pattern has repeated itself with that world epidemic. And for somehow we always kind of survive and even thrive a little bit after a big event like that occurs. But so what we've seen is when parenting trends change, we overcorrect. So I'm going to argue that we might be overcorrecting.
I think you're
right now a little bit, right?
I think you're right.
And again, I'm not going to blame the kids. I make the parents look in a mirror every single time, and I'm not making them bad for it because I am them.
Right, exactly.
We are us.
We're together in this.
Hello,
Yes.
right there.
Yeah.
I understand the forces that are pushing us to make the decisions that we're making and how conflicted we are sometimes. But we do need to make them suffer a little bit. We do, because that builds better young adults, that builds more self-sufficient, that builds more self-confidence, that builds all the things.
When parents take away from their children the opportunities for growth,
Yes.
you're robbing your children.
You are.
You're literally robbing your children. You think that you're taking something away to make it easier for them. But when you realize that nothing good comes from not having struggles that they can grow on, that's a huge
Who are you
thing.
actually making it easier for?
Right.
You. As a parent, you're making it easier for you because you can't sit in the discomfort of watching your child suffer.
Yes. It's funny that
it's horrible.
It is horrible, and it's funny that you say that because we had some struggles with one of our children where they were really struggling, and it was hard for me to watch.
Oh,
it
horrible.
was a daughter, and it was hard for me to watch. And I remember having this conversation with my husband and saying, like, it's, I kept parenting out of fear because of, mental health stuff and when there's suicidal stuff inside. I mean, you come from this place of fear. It's terrible.
I do.
And I would say, and he would say, it's not your job to fix everything. It's our job to be a safe place for her to land, right? And I said, it's just so hard to watch. And he said the following words to me that were so fucking simple that I still it hits me all the time. He says, then look the other way.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
He is real good at just putting me right in my place because he's not doing it out of meaning, but he's like, that shit hits me hard because it's like, you're absolutely right. He said, if you can't do it because it's so uncomfortable for you, look the other way, right? And it's exactly what I did, and it's exactly what she needed. She doesn't need mom to come in on a fucking white stallion and take all of the pain away for her. She needs to be able to fucking do that with guidance, right? When asked for, with a safe space to land. When she really falls, it's not my job to make certain she doesn't fall. It's my job to make sure she has a safe place to land when she falls.
When she falls, there are people that she can rely on to help dust her off.
And does that feel uncomfortable? Fuck yes.
Oh,
yeah. The worst.
It's horrible.
It's the worst to watch your kids stumble and to suffer. But we look at.
But let's go back to that field sophomore year in high school. Right? Like we found our way home.
We did.
In the middle of the night. Now, I'm not recommending that example to anybody. I mean, we're obviously using that as an analogy.
Right.
But we figured out how to get ourselves home, or we were going to be grounded for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like that was our motivator. Like getting in trouble was our motivator, and we found a way to make it happen. And if we didn't, we got busted, and we knew exactly why. But if we got home, the confidence of like, you just realize that you're capable of more than you thought you could.
Oh, yeah.
Or, having that midterm return and you had a D and you knew, I don't know about you, but how many times did you go like, I got 3.5 weeks to get that up. I got 3.5 weeks to get that D up to a C+ before my mom will take away my phone. And back then, this was the phone attached to the wall.
Yes, the one with the cord.
And you were like, you busted ass literally for 3 weeks to get the grade up so you could talk to your best friend at night. We figured it out.
Yeah.
Now, a parent will log in to their student view, know what they got on their algebra test 20 minutes ago. First question out of a parent's mouth as soon as the kid walks in that house is, what happened with algebra? I thought you told me you were studying. Were you prepared? Go to your teacher. Let's write your teacher an email. Should we write your teacher an email? Let's ask them if you can take it again. And let's ask your teacher if you can do some makeup work for that. What?
And then motherfuck the teacher for not giving you an opportunity to fix it. That's what's wild to me. I watch it happen, and it's like we're taking the kid's side in that situation. And I'm not suggesting that we blindly take teachers' sides on things, but what we're teaching our children is to not be accountable, because we'll just go the back door and get the teacher to change the grade or send the like whatever that looks like.
Right.
Stop it. What are we doing? Don't we see that the outcome of that is terrible? Look at what that's doing to our children.
The outcome of that is that we have college freshmen entering college at the highest rate of anxiety ever recorded. And I will say that statistic over and over and over again. So I'm going to circle back.
Yeah.
We are doggy paddling.
Yes.
And we start doing it at a very young age. And we don't realize that our children are doggy paddling. And so when they get to be 22, 23, you want to go, most active shooters are white males in their 20s. They have been just trying to catch their breath, and it could possibly be that so many different services have failed them. It could be that mom and dad have tried to receive services for them over and over and over again, and nothing's working. That feels really hopeless, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When I can't catch my breath, I don't know how to rescue myself because I've been rescued so many times. I'm being bullied. I've been to 3 community services, and that doesn't seem to be working. I don't feel like I can be honest because then they're just going to institutionalize me. And then we have 1 or 2 days of desperation and helplessness, and we have a shooter on our hands. Yeah.
The cycle just continues.
Yeah.
And our solutions are pointing fingers at each other and yelling louder, telling other people that they're wrong.
Right.
So that's one approach. I mean,
I love what you said at the beginning of the hour, really. If we all can just start in our homes, right? And just take real, beautiful, genuine looks at our processes and what we're doing and ways in which we think we can change. And that could be that, one spouse has to talk to the other spouse and say, you can't rant at home anymore. Like we're not providing a safe environment for our kids. They don't feel emotionally safe here, right? It could be locking up your guns. It could be when you have a family member that is depressed, you instantly take that firearm and you let Uncle Joe hold on to it for the next month or two till that individual makes it through that crisis or goes and talks to a counselor or until we have somebody evening off for a period of time. Why don't we take some responsibility? I know we just talked about rescuing kids, but we also add to their list of responsibilities. Why don't we let them off the hook for a couple things that they're not really into and let them know if they don't get into college, it's not the end of the world. It's really not the end of the world.
Agreed.
Especially if they don't get into that college that they want. Really? Then you weren't meant to go to that college. If you don't get the internship that your neighbor got, who cares? Doesn't matter.
also, I'm going to just quickly get on a soapbox about this really quickly. If you're not going to college for something that needs a degree, something that you love doing that needs a degree, and you're going in, getting a bunch of debt, getting a bunch of whatever, you're actually not coming out in a positive way. It's a net negative.
Agreed. Agreed.
Just we need more tradespeople. We need more people that have work experience. We need more people. You don't need a fucking degree in art history.
So I appreciate your soapbox.
Yeah.
And that's I've used that as an example several times, and I'm going to say remiss on me because I will say that is one of the goals that we put in the mind of all of these young kids.
I did the same.
For no reason.
I did the same.
And it doesn't fit, and it doesn't make you less than, and it doesn't, we actually are going to be falling apart as a society because we do not have enough tradesmen, and we have too many young adults that are in debt. So it's creating a great big chasm that we're going to watch unfold very, very soon. But when did that just become an expectation?
I don't know.
It snuck up on us.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah.
And it's wild because I looked at that from, I get very curious about things in my house because that's my test case, right? I look at that and I think I didn't have the opportunity. I was raised poor, very poor. I did not have the opportunity to do that. And so that was a measure of success for me, is to be able to get to the point where I could pay for my children to go to college. So what? Like,
I agree. So
right,
what?
Right? Like, my oldest daughter.
Let's just raise happy babies.
Yeah, let's just raise happy babies, right? Like, that should be the goal.
That's a whole nother podcast, girl, because you and I are swimming upstream on that. Yeah. Because society and culture and Instagram is telling them a completely different message on repeat.
Yeah, but look at the handcuffs that brings in when you have a young person that's in so much debt that they can't even fathom. They can't even math doesn't even work at that point. They won't
get out of that
right,
debt.
They're going to work at minimum wage at a job that has nothing to do with what their college degree was. Right. They will never be able to get out of that. They will never understand what it feels like to live free.
And then they'll be resentful.
Of course.
And then they'll always feel behind the ball. And then,
How could you not? I mean,
I have a lot of respect for the kids that decide to go the other direction.
Agreed.
It's amazing.
I think it doesn't get better, right? I watched that happen.
They're brave, in my opinion, because they're bucking their own generation a little bit, and they're like, and I'm good about it. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm going to tell a quick story. So my middle daughter did not go to college, barely graduated high school, which God bless her. She has been doing her whole thing. I do too. Yeah. I get her vibe. So she has been wanting to okay, I'm going to check out the whole mechanical industry for auto mechanic stuff. Sure. And she was talking to my brother about what does this look like for being a heavy diesel mechanic and all this. So she decided, I said, before you go to trade school, why don't you go work at a mechanic shop just to see if that's your vibe, right? So she starts working at a mechanic shop, and she's been changing oil and doing all that stuff. She fucking loves it. She loves it. Yay. She's like, Mom, I get to work with my hands. I get to this. Now, wherever she's going to end up going, who cares?
That's amazing.
She's happy today, right? I couldn't give a shit less. What degree you have underneath you? Are you happy? Are you, being a good person and contributing? Excellent. Win, win,
and the rest will unfold in front of her because she's been brave enough.
Yes.
To create her own path, and she's happy.
It's so excellent.
So there'll be new opportunities that unfold. That's amazing.
It's so excellent.
I love that story.
Yeah. And my husband and my son wants to play football in college. So people are like, "What is he going to college for?" I said, "Football." I don't give a shit. He's a young, smart man. There's an entrepreurial spirit. He doesn't need to go
figure it out.
He'll figure all that out. Yeah. But right now he's going for football.
Yeah.
And they just look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no. We raise happy kids in my house. That has not always been the case. I had to, obviously course correct with stuff. But I take that seriously. I want to end on this note. When we talk about going back into our houses, right? Where do we start? This is an excellent place to end. Go back and get curious about what's happening in your house, right? Let's all do that. Let's say we're not going to point fingers. We're not going to get out on social media or out on any of the platforms and say you're wrong, because we all understand as adults that we're coming from different perspectives. All of us are, and we all can be right. But let's also say this is a problem that affects every single one of us. And what are we going to do about it?
What role am I playing in the problem?
Yeah.
Right?
What role am I playing in the problem?
Get curious and ask yourself, what role am I playing in the problem? And now, what can I do to kind of create some change around that? Just my tribe.
Yeah.
Just my tribe. Because it's beautiful. Your tribe will model for other tribes.
Yes.
Or reach out and talk to other children and other young adults. And then other parents will be like, oh, is that what happens at your house? It's contagious.
It is contagious. I think that's a really lovely way to say that.
I love it.
So get curious. Jill, thank you so much for coming on
Yay.
today. I'm gonna close with another little rant.
Let's go.
Yeah, start with one, end with one.
It's called the Oreo girl.
I know, right? We've spent too long pretending guns are the whole story. They're not. Guns are the smoke. Disconnection is the fire. If we want change, it starts small, in our homes, at our tables, in the way we raise our boys and girls, obviously, but the boys for me is because of the active shooter situation. The way we show up for our neighbors, the way we choose connection over blame. This isn't a left or right issue. It isn't about who's right or who's wrong. It's about whether we care enough to see each other, to feel with each other, to protect each other. Because at the end of the day, what does it matter who's right when we're all terrified to send our kids to school? This is an everyone problem, and it's going to take everyone to fix it. Not with more hate, but with more humanity. So here's your challenge. Put down the weapons, the ones in your hands and the ones around your heart. Look someone in the eyes today. Ask the real question, not the polite one. Listen, connect, because connection is the cure, and it starts with you. That's all I'm going to say about that.